Hey, Brian.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going fantastic. How are you, fine sir?
I'm good. It was kind of cool seeing my name in the guest column tonight, not the host column.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm very, very excited that we get to have this conversation because, you and I have been friends for like a decade now.
Yeah, long time.
Kind of going on these separate journeys as film people, doing the world of film in a unique way and different way. And I think that this is a fun chance for us to have this conversation. For those who have watched our episodes before, Ricky is normally the host of this. And this is, I don't know, our fifth, sixth episode. And we've had some amazing folks on that have, ranging from Oscar winners to Emmy winners, and now I think we get to flip the tables and have future Oscar and Emmy.
I was hoping you were going to say that, my friend. Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I'm excited about our working together on this show and this project, and our audience with Casting Calls America and now Crew Calls America is very much we have a lot of professional productions, and we've got everything from, Netflix productions and Warner Brothers productions and all the big guys, but definitely the bulk of the productions that are using our services are independent productions.
Yeah.
Whether that be local ad agencies doing commercials or, people who are doing their web series and projects along those lines, but also a lot of independent film. And not just saying this because you and I are friends and have been for a while and have kind of been going through this journey separately but together, if you will, but really just your pedigree of what you are and what you've been doing, especially in 2020, or at least especially what's coming out in 2020, done pre-COVID land, I think is extremely fascinating. And if I didn't know you and you weren't my friend, I'd still be fascinated to hear about what's gone on. Now, I'm lucky enough to have already heard a lot of what's going on.
Yeah.
I was even fortunate enough to have been on set with you for one of these as your guest for a day. But I'm excited to talk to you about your films. You have 2 films out this year, which I don't think there are very many directors or independent film folks who could say that any year, even those who are successful with a lot of things going. So to have 2 feature films coming out in theaters in 2020 is an absolute accomplishment and amazing. So kudos to you, sir.
It's hard to believe, man. It's really like pinching yourself is a thing, but sometimes I'll wake up like yesterday was a particularly surreal day. I just really couldn't honestly believe what was happening. But now I am 20. So it's 7:04 p.m. At 7:40 tomorrow night is the premiere of My Brother's Crossing in Roseville, and I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And in the meantime, we're working on getting the Talking Tree out this holiday season. And, that's going bonkers. So, there's a lot to talk about, but I just feel super fortunate, super blessed. You've been a part of that with what you've done. You came aboard last year with the California Capitol Film Office, and we've partnered, and you and Charles and I and Kirk and now Bex. And so, man, there's a lot to talk about, all from Sacramento. Who would have thought? Everybody says California. Right? I don't think of it like that. There's so much talent here. It's not even funny.
Well, so you mentioned the movies, and I hadn't yet. So let's dive in. So tell us about. Now I know that this is a reverse order release.
Yes, it is.
So, but your first quote unquote film in theaters that came out technically September 3rd?
Yes,
in some markets. So it's My Brother's Crossing.
Yes.
What is My Brother's Crossing? Give us the elevator pitch. Give us the log line spiel on My Brother's Crossing.
Gigantic robots, gigantic lizards. Oh wait, no, that's a different movie. No, My Brother's Crossing is a true story from 2015. The Ferguson riots in Missouri were happening right next door to Virginia, give or take a few miles. And an African-American man and his son were driving in their truck, and a Caucasian couple on a motorcycle were driving on their motorcycle, It was dusk. It was kind of hard to see. The truck goes down the road, doesn't really see them, crashes into them, and kills them. So in Virginia, they're thinking, okay, is this going to be a huge race riot? Is this going to be a thing where black against white, blah, blah, blah? Turns out the Caucasian couple that were killed were in a motorcycle gang. The African-American man and his son are a pastor of a church. So the motorcycle gang hears about this. They hop on their bikes and in their cars. They get to the scene of the accident where their partners are dead. They kind of make their way through the police barricade. I don't want to say they forced their way through, but they made a beeline through. They get to the man and his son and his wife, and the man is sitting there thinking, I'm probably going to die in this moment. This motorcycle gang is going to hurt me or kill me. Turns out the motorcycle gang was a Christian motorcycle gang. They forgave that man right there, and the movie turns into the power of coming together as a community. Black and white were all made the same, and the court case that ensued and how the community came together, and the brother of the deceased came together to help the man who killed his brother. I don't want to spoil things. It's based on the book Forgiveness in Black and White, but it's an incredible story that I felt so honored to be a part of. And without talking for too much, without letting you speak, I'll say one more thing. It was supposed to come out in the fall of last year. We missed the boat.
Oh.
And so now here we are sitting in this turmoil, racial turmoil in the United States right now. Yesterday, a month ago, 2 months ago, and now this film is coming out. And it's really, in my opinion, and my hope and my prayer that it's going to heal hearts and minds in terms of racial tension. And since it did come out on September 3rd, I can already tell you that it is, because it's coming out in California tomorrow, but it came out across the country on September 3rd. And I've gotten over 100 texts and emails and messages saying how this film is touching people's life. I'll say this, and I'll let you talk. It's at a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes right now and an 8.2 on IMDb because it's really resonating with people.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had not looked up the Rotten Tomatoes since you and I talked kind of via text on kind of what was going on when it came out in theaters. So I hadn't seen the update. That's really, really impressive. I mean, again, to have two movies coming out in a year is a feat that few can accomplish. Period. In 2020, ridiculous. To have a Rotten Tomato and a score like that, even beyond ridiculous. But let's see the trailer. Let's see the visual put together and give everybody a little sample of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely.
On and on. I'm afraid to drive.
I'm J.T. Clark. Well, it's good to know you, Mr. Clark. My condolences to you.
I feel like at any moment somebody is going to retaliate.
You're going to have to develop a personal relationship with our Savior, Jesus Christ.
Dad.
Lord, lift me up.
I mean, Pam are dead.
Haven't I served you? Why are you doing this to me?
She was adamant about seeking a vehicular manslaughter charge against Miss Martin.
Baby, everybody knows. People know it wasn't your fault.
Tell that to the deceased, to their families, to my son.
I haven't forgiven him. I want the guy prosecuted.
I think you mean persecuted.
That's just the way it goes.
It says April 10th. That was our original release date after the Thanksgiving when we missed, then COVID. And
The original, and then the original, and then the right.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did you didn't write this? And
No.
so many indie filmmakers are writing their own material, which is great.
Yeah.
How did you get? And I think a lot of folks who are into filmmaking who want to be directors or are creating their own content because they want to have the opportunity to create their own content. How did you get the opportunity to direct a project that you weren't a part of the initial creation phase of?
Let me back up 2 films. So 2016, I was supposed to do a film called The Bend with Kevin Nash and Tom Sizemore and Doug Hutchison. My now business partner, Charles Lago, manages a couple of those people. And we were getting the ball rolling on The Bend. Things were getting really moving forward. We found an investor. I'm making a very long story short. How do I say this properly? Let's just say the investor was not who he said he was. So
that never happens.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't believe you.
Right. So a week from shooting, we get a phone call. Hey, there's no money, blah, blah, blah. Shut it down.
A week from shooting.
Yeah, Charles was living in LA. He was up here. We had agreements with our actors. We had locations picked out. We had people who bought equipment and costumes, all because the investor was telling us, hey, the money's there, the money's there, the money's there. He showed us. Anyway. So I choose to handle things in my life very well in terms of my response to things 99% of the time. And so I chose to respond well to this. I was not happy. I was not joyful, but I chose to respond well. So that time in talking to Charles every day about, hey, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Finally, he calls me like 8 months after this debacle. He's like, look, I don't know much about you other than the fact that every time I talk to you about this, you have a positive attitude. It's like if a hurricane happened in California and blew your house down, you'd be like, all right, let's pick up the wood and build your house. I don't get it, but I have this film called The Talking Tree. And since you have such a positive attitude, I think if you can help get it funded, you're the man to direct it. That long story short, I did help get The Talking Tree funded. We did shoot The Talking Tree in October, November, December of 2018. And one of the actors in The Talking Tree is Robert Lasardo, who I interviewed a couple weeks ago on this very show.
Right.
And Robert knew the producer of My Brother's Crossing. So we wrap Talking Tree in December. I get a call from Robert in February. Says, hey, this guy Tony is looking for a director. They're going to start shooting in May. You should talk to him. So that call never happened, and then lo and behold, in April, I get a call from Tony. Hey, man, we're still looking for a director, blah, blah, blah. So there I am, sitting in April at my house, wondering what my next film is going to be. I'm on a plane the next day to Virginia. I fly out there. I meet the producers. I see some of the locations. I fly home, accept the job, and I fly out the next week, and I'm directing My Brother's Crossing, all within a matter of like a week and a half. So all that to say is my positivity in dealing with something negative in life led Charles to ask me to direct The Talking Tree. Then on The Talking Tree, Robert had a good time and told Tony, hey, this guy's a cool guy. He had a really good set. Things functioned well. You should give him a shot. Tony called me, and that's how I got My Brother's Crossing.
So I actually didn't know this. I honestly didn't know this. So you didn't know Charles before working with him in casting actors that he represented for The Bend.
Right. So we're going through the script of The Bend, and I'm like, man, you know who I see for the sheriff? Kevin Nash. And you know who'd be the dad is Tom Sizemore. I'm nobody. I'm like, I don't care. I'll pay for an IMDb Pro account. And look, I am encouraging you to do this, by the way, people. Pay for an IMDb Pro account. Find managers, not agents. Find managers of actors. It turned out that Kevin Nash, I keep doing this. I don't know why. I don't know why I keep doing this with my hands. Like Ricky Bobby when he's talking, like, I don't know.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah. So it turns out that Kevin Nash and Tom Sizemore were managed by the same person, Charles Lago. So I'm like, how cool is that? So I'm going to take a chance. So I emailed Charles. I'm like, hey, I want to do this film, very low budget in Sacramento. The two people we wanted, you manage. He's like, okay, if you can get a couple bucks together and an LOI, blah, 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 we'll do this thing. So I did.
And an LOI is letter of intent for those who are not familiar with the term.
Yes, LOI is a letter of intent. So we got our letter of intent from our little money people, gave it to Charles, got the letter of intent from the actors, and then that's how everything kind of springboarded into us going full bore into pre-production on The Bend. So I did not know Charles prior to that until I emailed him, and now I'm going on 5 years of knowing the man, and we co-run the California Capitol Film Office together.
Yeah, I did not. I honestly didn't know that. I mean, because I've been working with you and Charles now for a couple of years, I guess, at this point, and I did not realize. For some reason, I think it was just when I first met Charles with you. You guys had already been working together for a while, and you and I had known each other for a while, and so I think it was just like instant. We just all were just on the same page. That's interesting. I honestly didn't know that before right now. Yeah. So The Bend was. Now, where did that script come from?
My wife coaches soccer, and her assistant coach, I guess my wife told him, yeah, my husband's into filmmaking, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I've got this script. So he pitched me the script, and we took that and kind of tweaked it some and made it into something that we could actually film. And so that's what we presented to that investor I was referring to earlier. He liked it. He liked me. He liked Charles. And so we thought, we were on seventh heaven and blue skies.
So what's the status of that? What's the status of The Bend?
It's messy.
Okay.
We had to bring in another writer to kind of get it to a point where we felt was going to be, I don't know what the right word is. We had to bring in another writer. And then when the investor did that to us, there's clauses and things and contracts. So I honestly don't know. Like if someone opened a briefcase right now and said, here's $1 million, can you make the bend with it? I don't know. I don't know where all the contracts stand. It's a great story. It's a great script. I think it's really cool. It's a horror thriller without being like, over the top rated R or anything like that. It's just really cerebral. I liked it a lot. So, who knows down the road? I don't know.
Okay. So for the indie filmmakers who are out watching this or who watch this later, you've been doing, kind of give us a little bit pre-directing these films, having these opportunities. Give us a little bit of your kind of history into film. How did you get to the point to where somebody was pitching you a script idea?
Yeah. Okay. So I have always loved acting. I've always loved being the center of attention. Since I was very little. And so I knew that I wanted to do something in the performing arts. I did a couple plays. I didn't really love plays, but I loved cameras and I loved editing and I loved that kind of thing. So I did that. In 2004, 2003, I was on a nationally syndicated TV show about video games where I traveled the country and interviewed celebrities and video game makers about that. That lasted for about 1.5 years. And then I took a lot of time off. I was already married. We had a couple kids. We moved to Sacramento, blah, blah, blah. I kind of put my acting and directing and film passion on the back burner. But then I got to Sacramento and I'm like, man, there seems to be a really hunger for people here that want to do acting and directing. So I got involved in some of the local productions here in Sacramento. Now, this is the part that maybe I shouldn't say in 2020 because it's not politically correct, but I noticed that a lot of the things that Sacramento was putting out was not good in terms of quality, in terms of the acting, the directing, the writing, the editing, all that stuff. And after being on a couple sets and doing a couple things, I was like, I don't know that I keep wanting to do this stuff in Sacramento. So I stopped and I put together a reel that I thought was my best stuff. And so, I'm just being honest here. When the bend came around, Charles was like, okay, what have you done? I said, I haven't done much, if anything, really. And I showed him, he's like, okay, well, your stuff is decent. He's like, who do you want to bring in to help out on this that's from Sacramento? And I showed him the reels of people I had been working with. And he's like, absolutely not. We can't use any of those people. We can't. They just don't know enough. I'm happy to bring them on in like an apprentice role, but they can't be leading the charge in those various departments. So that said, I think it's important if you are serious about acting, if you are serious about directing or writing, don't continually put yourself on sets where actors are showing up drunk, where directors don't know what they're doing, where, because you're from Sacramento, you've got to keep going up the ladder in terms of your production. So at some point I just said, that these local Sacramento, San Francisco, Bay Area productions that I've been doing are kind of at the same level. I'm going to stop and I'm going to try to raise my game. And so I did. I studied, I learned, I watched master classes and things like that. And I believe in doing that, it paid off for me. So there's nothing wrong with cutting your teeth on these lower budget films and things like that. But you can't keep doing those and expecting, Hollywood, quote unquote, not that Hollywood knocked on my door either, but you can't expect Hollywood to knock on your door and say, hey, we really enjoyed that 3-minute short film you did for that 6-year-old that got a camera for his birthday. It's not going to work. So you have to continually raise your game.
Well, and I really appreciate you talking about this because obviously with, that's a lot of where I got started as well is in the Sacramento market. And I think you find when you work in a market like that, you don't know what you don't know until you realize you don't know it.
Sure.
And but you can, if you simply look at the fact of what's being done, what's the end product, and is it what you see on Netflix? Is it what you see in theaters? And if the answer is no, then there's more to learn and there's more people to learn from. And I really appreciate that mentality of, there's some great
Absolutely.
actors and filmmakers in Sacramento. And there's that all across.
And I use them, by the way. I don't want to interrupt, but I did use actors and crew from Sacramento in both my films, so I don't want people to think I'm hating on Sacramento. I did.
Right. I mean, where'd you find the actors in Sacramento? I mean, there's
something Casting Calls United States.
Something, yeah.
Casting Calls America. That was it.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay. Sacramento casting, maybe.
There it is. Yeah.
Part of the Casting Calls America network. Anyways, so shameless plug. But I have found in working in markets around the country, it's the same thing. All the markets seem to have the same, and even LA has pockets of people who are at the same level, who haven't got. In fact, if anything, I've actually found that sometimes in LA it's harder to get onto the bigger productions because they've got such an established kind of flow. Yeah. Whereas if you are in a smaller market, you actually have more opportunity to get even on the bigger productions when they come into town.
Yeah.
But here's taking a little bit from what you were saying as far as kind of that experience. If a big production comes into town and you've directed a independent film, but it didn't do anything, or you just did it as a passion project, you didn't have, it wasn't a SAG-AFTRA film with SAG-AFTRA contracts and actors, and it was a passion project. It didn't have the legal stuff in place, so you did it. And a big project comes into town, go PA.
Totally.
Go be on that set.
Go get coffee for somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Be on a set. Get on a set. And I view every single experience I've had on set, whether it be the worst run set I've ever been on to the best run set I've ever been on, both of them were educational experiences. Totally. And the key was to be on both and go, oh, that's a complete you-know-what show.
Yeah.
And that's how you're supposed to do it. And then that's how you really know the difference.
Yeah. Sometimes you learn what to do, and sometimes you learn what not to do.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's so important for people who are in the smaller markets to be aware of, is that, don't think that because you're the big fish in the small pond that you can't learn by going and being on and go to another small market too. I have found working in different small markets completely different mentalities, and even in small market to small market. So getting a little bit off the track, but I just think that with the experience that you've had and having shown and gone through that experience, I think it's really important for filmmakers who are in these smaller markets to realize that you're actually in my opinion, in more advantageous position to do stuff by getting on more sets that are local. And then when something bigger comes into town, like you said, going and getting coffee for somebody, because just be a sponge. Because
somebody from something you worked on 6 months ago is going to be on that set, and they're going to be like, I remember that guy, Brian, I'm going to call him. And it's about networking too. So here's what I will say, and then we can kind of close the loop on this. I tell people this all the time. I don't care what you've worked on or how big the budget was. I would rather have somebody eager, hungry, positive attitude on my set than the world's most prolific actor or set designer if they have a bad attitude. So the key to all that is having a good attitude and learning and not thinking you're better than anybody else. I love the way Werner Herzog says it. He says, when the cameras are off, everybody on set are king and queens. But when the camera goes on, the people in front of the camera become the royalty while the cameras are on. You have to have everybody treated the same, and everybody has to be on the same team and acting positively with each other, because I'll tell you, nobody wants to work with that guy who has a bad attitude the whole time, no matter how much he's done or what films he's worked on.
So let's circle back to that point. Literally, you found success not that you're not a great filmmaker, but let's be honest, the reality is it's because you're a great person. You had the right mentality, you had the right attitude, you were positive, and that's what got you noticed and remembered. And it's not, again, not because you're not a great filmmaker, because honestly, some of that material hadn't even hit anywhere yet.
Right.
What it was the attitude and the determination and the mentality. And you don't know this, but George Stoltz and I have talked about you behind your back. And literally, and Doug Hutchison, and they have both almost like it was scripted for them by you, said the exact same thing of, I would work with that guy again in a heartbeat. I don't care what the scenario. And that's, I think when I was talking with George about it, was before he'd seen a single frame.
Yeah. Well, Brian, thank you for saying that. You said I'm a great person. I think there's a few people who might disagree with you, so I will take that compliment.
Well, there's always going to be that for everybody. And that's another thing for everybody to remember. You're not going to be everybody's friend, and not everybody's going to be your fan. And honestly, sometimes, let's be honest, the more successful you are, the more they hate you.
Yes.
But that's another point. That's a whole nother story too.
So
anyway,
I mentioned Werner Herzog a minute ago with his great quote. And, I also have another Werner Herzog quote that I don't like from the same master class. I'm going to do my best, worst Werner Herzog right now. He says, I don't want to wake up knowing what Nicolas Cage looks like eating eggs, so I am not his friend. So I watched that masterclass, and basically what he's saying is don't become friends of your actors as the director, because you need to have a level of separation there when you need to tell them to turn it on and off. And so I was like, okay, I guess I can't be friends with actors, but man, I'm a friendly guy and I love everybody. So on the first day of the set, I threw it out the window. I'm like, no way. I love this too much. So yeah, I buddy with everybody, but I buddy with everybody, from literally the PAs all the way to the executive producers. I treat everybody the same, and people appreciate that. And I think that's what George and Doug appreciated, because they both work in Hollywood and this is not Hollywood. And I don't think that's the case on very many Hollywood shoots. So I think behavior is caught, not taught. And so if I'm on set treating the coffee guy the same as I'm treating the investor, people notice.
Well, and when you are
wait, how was my Werner Herzog? How was it? Bad? All right. Okay.
When you're on a set, especially for a feature, and you're working with people, the same people for several weeks. And I remember back in high school theater days. It's you have this mourning loss after doing a show with these same people for weeks on end, and doing all the rehearsals and everything. And a film set's very similar. And I've always been amazed by the film sets where they aren't like keep in touch and friends, and it's show up, do the thing, and leave.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that, to your point in your story about kind of that mentality, that's what gets you remembered for the next job. It's not just about being buddy. It's about that attitude, because you're going to spend that time, whether it be 4 or 5 weeks with somebody. You want to like them.
Yeah.
You want to be there. You want to spend time with them. And how many stories do we hear about, so-and-so won't work with so-and-so again, and they don't want to spend that time, and they don't want to do that project or what have you.
This week, Elf 2, they said Elf 2 didn't get made because
James Caan
didn't get along. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. Come on,
James Caan said that in an interview. I read that too. Same thing.
Fuck it up, guys.
Which I guess means Will Ferrell will not be making any guest appearances on Mandalorian.
Yeah, he might be under the mask if John doesn't know, but yeah, no, definitely.
But let's circle back around to the point of, okay, something didn't go right. And I'm always stressing this to actors. Every audition is an opportunity to be seen and remembered. It's not necessarily an opportunity to get the role you want. It's an opportunity to be seen and remembered. And that's more so of the professionalism and the attitude sometimes than the performance. The performance has to be there too. But I know that when I'm doing casting projects, if I see an actor and they're not right for this role, but they were really great overall, and they had the right personality, and it's somebody that I would want to work with, and they were professional, it puts me in a much better position to recommend that person than somebody who comes in and is not great to work with, but maybe is, a superior actor. But, think about it from the director's viewpoint. Who do you want on your set? Somebody that you can work with for 5 weeks and enjoy, or somebody who, maybe has this amazing facial recognition, whatever, ability, but you can't stand them for 5 weeks? What's going to look better on camera at the end of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the relationship off the camera is equally as important as the relationship that you form for the camera. So I 100% agree with you.
So, okay. Project doesn't go through, which never happens, right? Everybody who's an independent filmmaker gets exactly what they want when they want it. There's never any issues.
Ever.
That's how it works. So you were the rare instance where things didn't work out the way that you wanted them to.
Yeah.
But in that process, you were so professional and so understanding of the realities of the world that got recognized, and Charles came to you with another project when it came up, and that was The Talking Tree.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Tell me about
Okay.
that. What happened with that? How did that start? How did that go?
Yeah, so that conversation I had with Charles was in the parking lot of a Burger King, by the way, just in case people are with their bingo cards.
As all important film meetings are.
Yes. So I will fast forward through the process of getting the investor, blah, blah, blah. So here we are. I get the script for The Talking Tree in May of 2017, and I liked it. I thought it was lacking something. I didn't know what it was, but I thought it was lacking something. The story is about a mother in her 60s or 70s and her son in his 40s. The mother gets cancer. The son freaks out, robs a bank to pay for her medical bills, gets caught, and goes to prison. I liked it. It was faith-based, but it wasn't on your nose faith-based. And it was kind of gritty. And I'm like, that's who I am as a person. So May of 2017, I get the script. July of 2017, my mom, who was as close to me as a mother could be to a son, calls me and says, hey, I have stage 4 liver cancer. And she passed away 6 weeks later. So during my mom's 6 weeks journey of finding out she had cancer to passing away, she told me many things, not only about cancer and chemo and everything, but life and Ricky, remember this and that kind of thing. So I got permission from Charles and the writer of The Talking Tree to completely rewrite the character of Georgia, played by Oscar nominee, Golden Globe winner Sally Kirkland, who I love with all my heart. I rewrote that entire character to be what my mom was saying in real life. So 95% of what Sally says in this movie as Georgia are my mom's real life words. And so without getting too far into it, because I'll start crying and that'll be a mess, nobody's going to want to watch this later. The Talking Tree became a love letter to my mom. And my experience with my mom was the missing part that the film needed to make it feel more authentic, because the writer didn't have a mom that passed away from cancer, and neither did the person they were basing the story on. So I was able to bring some authenticity there with my own situation with my mom. And every time I watch the trailer, which we're going to watch in a second, every time I watch a new version of the film, it's such a honor for me to I should not use the word honor twice. It's an honor for me to honor my mom that way. But it was also therapeutic and everything. So I'm really excited for people to see The Talking Tree, because I was able to spend 2 years on it as opposed to 2 weeks for My Brother's Crossing. It's just such a heartfelt movie that I think is going to bring a lot of hope and restoration to people going through cancer.
So I think that is a good segue into seeing the trailer for that, and then we can talk a little bit more about the production process on it and kind of how that all came to be, and then back to the reverse, back to My Brother's Crossing being in theaters now. But let's watch the trailer for Talking Tree.
All right.
Is it ever okay to steal food to like feed your family?
You have such a good heart, but stealing is never the right thing to do.
If God is all good, then you, out of all people, would be the last person in this position.
How bad is it? These medications are only prescribed for terminally ill patients.
I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about you.
These drugs aren't even covered on your mother's insurance.
My client, he's a good man.
Your client robbed a bank.
I'm so sorry.
Mr. Petros, you are hereby sentenced to a maximum of 5 years in federal prison.
You really love Christmas, huh?
Special things are meant to happen this time of year.
You are mine now, Danny boy.
Isolation is the oldest form of torture.
You're gonna have some church folks coming in here and deliver some gifts.
I'll be escorting the both of you through the cell block. I'm disappointed you're here, Sanchez.
Close 146.
Party time's over, ladies.
She's gotten worse, Danny. I'm so sorry, my friend.
She said to tell you the magic is back and the tree is talking.
And I heard what that girl from the church said to you.
Maybe it's not such a coincidence that you're in the cell next to me, huh? The only thing that makes sense in this world is friends, man. And family. It's all about easing Georgia's pain.
I'm just asking for a chance to see her one last time.
You have to believe that we're going to see your mother together. Is born this day in the city of David a savior. That's what Christmas is all about, right?
It's a magic tree.
running out of time.
My hands are tied.
We're not finished.
You need to clean yourself up and start acting like a husband and a father.
Thought we were gonna lose her last night.
She's got to hold on just a little bit longer.
My son will be here.
You're my brother, man. I love you.
I'd say you did something really nice tonight.
I love it.
I do too, and I've actually seen that trailer a few times now, and I got to tell you, I'm really excited to see the film in theaters. No offense to My Brother's Crossing, which I had the opportunity to see, but I'm really looking forward to The Talking Tree. I feel a little more of a connection to that. I got to be on set for that as your guest, as well as my daughter, and worked with your team a little bit with Sacramento Casting and getting some of the actors together. But but forget all that personal connection. It just looks really good. And I'm a fan of George Stoltz. I'm a fan of Doug. I'm a fan of Sally. I mean, you've got an amazing cast in that.
That's a great cast.
And Robert, I hadn't talked to Robert before we did the interview a few weeks ago, but Robert, I mean, that, especially when we played the extended clip on the show a few weeks ago, that was an amazing clip and performance. And I can't wait to see the whole thing put together. The most important thing that I need to see, though, when I watch Talking Tree compared to My Brother's Crossing is when it says a Ricky Borba film, will it be spelled right?
Ha! Oh, Brian, you got me. Oh, okay. Well, so the cat's out of the bag. They did not spell my name correctly in the credits for My Brother's Crossing. It is, it's unfortunate.
And I got to tell you, the reason I find that humorous is not because, I mean, I feel bad that happened for you, but it's because there are so many things that happen in the production of a film. And I think especially when you're new to it, you don't realize how many moving parts there really are, especially for a feature film that goes to theaters. And to be clear, for people who are watching right now, we are doing this on September 24th, 2020. It's in theaters right now. So you haven't even begun the streaming world yet.
Yeah.
Which is I want to have that conversation with you again. Yeah. Because that's a whole nother world. You're actually, again, amazingly, you have 2 films in theaters this year. One won't come out until Christmas time or the holiday season. One's in theaters right now. But there's so many moving pieces. And I've been a part of productions where a name's been spelled wrong or, in the credits. And that's when you have a huge list of people and, 20 names get misspelled by thing. And there's so many pieces where something can happen. So I think my notation on this is that give yourself some forgiveness if something happens like that, because you can. Now I know that wasn't you that misspelled your own name, but that's not the point. The point is that there's got to be stuff in the film. And I'd like to get into this a little bit. Yeah. And we're running out of time, and I can't believe that we're already 20 minutes because I want to hear more about how this came to be in theaters. I want to really go over that. But there's so many pieces that you don't always have control over. You have to be forgiving of yourself and sometimes of the team. But let's talk a little bit about kind of the process. So Talking Tree, we're going to get more into that. You get a good referral because, again, you have a professional attitude. You have a warm personality. People like to work with you. They like to have that experience with you. You got a referral from one of your actors who's producing another who's friends with the producer who's producing another film. You get an opportunity to go and direct that film, but it wasn't your project. You weren't in on it from the early. You were the hired gun.
Yeah.
So that's different. That's very different for an indie filmmaker to go from producing somewhat and directing their first film as a indie filmmaker to then being a hired gun on an indie film that they weren't really part of the creation of. So how did that go, and how was that different for you, and how is it with the movie now coming out?
If I can help it, I would never do hired gun directing again, especially on such a short timeline where I was brought into the film 2 weeks before it started shooting, and it was in a different state, a whole day plane flight. It's not like I had to go to LA. Was my experience great? Yes. Do I love the people? Absolutely. Am I proud to be a part of this film? 100%. All those things. It's incredibly hard, though, as someone who I consider myself to be very creative. Doug Hutchison told me there are two directors. There's the Christopher Nolans who love the gadgets and the widgets and the lenses and the flares, and directors like Steven Spielberg who don't care about that stuff at all, who love actors. I love actors.
Right. Yeah, right there with you.
So for me to be on a film where I don't get that time beforehand to really pour into the script and say, what about this? What about that? Can we change this? And then in post-production, where the director is supposed to sit with the editor and make sure that my notes from the script supervisor's notebook is being looked at, for that not to have happened either is, for lack of a better word, disappointing. However, I'm still very proud of this film. The film, again, because it's been out for 3 weeks, it's already changing lives. And not to get too religious on this show, but the whole purpose of this film is to help people forgive and heal. And there have been, that I know of, 3 people that have said, you know what, I want to find more about God after watching this film. And they've emailed the producers and said, tell me more about this story. Tell me more about God. I'm really intrigued by this. So the film is serving its purpose in that regard. Do I wish that I had more time on the front and back end of it? Absolutely. Do I wish my name was in there correctly at the end? Yes. Are people going to know it's my name? Absolutely. It's not like it says Brian Jagger. But my point is, there are so many pieces and people in the kitchen that it really is important for a director to be on a project longer than just a week or two before the shoot, and then that's it.
Yeah, to not be a part of the pre-production or the post-production really and that's essentially what I hear you saying, is that you were not involved in the pre-production, you were not involved in the post-production.
Yeah.
So you were literally, I mean, that's usually more of a position for a true set role,
right?
Not the director, and that is interesting, and it's fascinating. When did you first see My Brother's Crossing?
February. So we shot it in June, and my first viewing was.
Let me rephrase. When did you first see the version that's playing in theaters?
I have not seen the version playing in theaters.
Right. That boggles my mind. I mean, I knew the answer to that question before I asked it.
Yeah.
But that boggles my mind that you literally have a movie that is playing in theaters nationwide right now that you did not see, or you still haven't seen the version that's playing. I've seen it. You haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So, but let's take a step back. This wasn't your project per se, because you weren't involved in the pre and post, but you were the director. Why is this in theaters? And what I mean by that is that it is very, very rare for an independent film at this level to get into theaters.
Yes, it is.
I think a lot of the independent filmmakers that follow Casting Calls America and now Crew Calls America and our network, and the actors who are interested in getting content out there someday, how did that come to be? How do you have two movies in theaters?
So I'm so happy to answer this question, because, like, people who want to lose weight, they're always looking for the miracle pill. And everybody's like, oh, it's diet and exercise. You really got to. Here's the thing. It's not a magic trick to get your film in theaters. And I don't want to make it seem like it's easy, because it's not. But here's the thing. Our distribution company, Atlas Distribution, has a model where you pay them and they have the network to put the film in theaters. Whereas the traditional model is, my God, can I please find someone at Paramount or Lionsgate to just watch my film? And if they like it, maybe they'll pass it up the line, and maybe they'll buy it from me for pennies on the dollar, make millions of dollars, and I'll get a paycheck for $10. That's the traditional model. Atlas Distribution takes the film, they watch it to make sure that it's good. Then they say, okay, we're going to test market this film with our bubble of people that we do that with. We're going to come up with a bit of a campaign for you. And when I say the prices are astronomically low, they're astronomically low.
So this is also what some people would refer to as four-walling, right? Okay. Well, I mean, so the other version of this, I should say, where you go to a theater and say, I want to buy out your theater, and I'm going to, and then you're gonna charge normal ticket prices, and I get whatever you charge from that. Is that what Atlas is doing, or is it a different model? Okay, no, Atlas so this isn't four-walling.
No, not at all. No, Atlas is a full-on distribution company. They do theatrical releases. They do streaming. If they like your film, you pay them to put it in the theater. So you say, so let's take I don't want to speak because I'm way more intertwined with the Talking Tree. So the Talking Tree, we know it's a faith-based film. We know the markets it's going to be strong in. I don't believe that it should be in some markets, and I do believe it should be in others. So we can go to that. We can go to Atlas with our funds that we've raised in post-production and say, here's what we have. Make the poster. Help us dial in the trailer. And then with your analytics, you tell us what cities and theaters you want to put this in. And then they say, okay, that's going to be X amount of dollars per theater. You do that, and then you keep – you know what? I shouldn't say that because I might be misspeaking. I know the percentage that the production entity keeps is far greater and higher than if Lionsgate or Paramount took your film. I'm not exactly sure that you get 100% of the profits after you pay Atlas, but I know that their percentage is far, far, far less than what you would be seeing with a major distribution company. So for that reason alone, people should be calling my friend Harmon at Atlas and saying, I have a film here with some marketing money. What can we do with this? How can we get it into theaters? It's not guaranteed you'll get it in theaters because the film still has to be of quality, but it's a far more advantageous route to take than your traditional, please God, have somebody at Paramount look at my film and then pay me $4 for it while they make $1 million.
Right. So so it's in theaters. How long is it? It's been in theaters since September.
It's a theater. So when Atlas puts it in theaters, it's a full theater. It's not a Fathom event. It's not a weekend event. It's a full on. If it gets in the theaters, it's a theatrical run.
And I think that we're putting the link to Fandango in the Facebook comments. So if you're watching this live, it should be there in just a moment. If you're not watching it live, you can still go to the Facebook comments on Casting Calls America and see the link on there. But so you can go to Fandango and find out where it's playing near you.
Yes.
So it's like you said, it's not a Fathom event, it's a regular theatrical run. But how long is this going to last? Or is it based upon the sales?
That's exactly what it's a legitimate full-on theatrical release based on sales. If your film's doing well, God bless you. You're going to have your film in theaters for a long time. If it doesn't perform well, like any other film, like Cats, like films that have come out, then it's going to be pulled. And so far we've been in the top 10 box office in 2020 box office numbers for 3 weeks running, and I'm very proud of that.
As you should be. I mean, I loved when I was looking at the numbers after the Labor Day weekend. It's like, oh, you guys are number 5 or 4 or whatever it was, and it's like, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's a little bit different world, but still, that is still really neat that you have that opportunity and you get to say that, and that's never gonna not be there for you. Yeah. I think that's really, really cool. And then you get to have that experience again. So actually, wait a minute. Are you going to have that experience again? I mean, is it already done deal with Talking Tree will be in
no, theater? I can't say that it's a done deal, but we are with Atlas. We are forming that right now. Actually, today we had a talk with them, and we're very close to nailing that down. Our investor, who's in charge of everything, is out. He's not a United States guy. He lives out of the country, so we have to liaison with him. He's on a different time zone. Blah blah blah. But it is in the cards for Talking Tree to be in theaters this holiday season.
Well, I hope that happens. I mean, I'm really excited to see the full version of that, and I'm really hoping that we get to see that in theaters. I mean, and I'm guessing it will be. I mean, I think with what the quality of that and some of the things that come out in theaters, on a straight run from another distributor, okay. But to be able to have that in theaters, I think, and to have the 2 in a year, I mean, really, really kudos. I don't know if we have any questions. The amazing Bex Francis is now doing the behind the scenes producing for us.
Awesome.
And she is another amazing Sacramento producer. And I'm so excited that she's helping us out. And so, Bex, I don't know if we want to see if there's anybody that has questions. If not, I could talk to Ricky for hours and hours, and usually when Ricky and I end up talking, we end up talking for longer than we intend to. Yeah. But until that happens, what advice do you have for filmmakers who are beginning the process? Because this is one of the things that I think a lot of filmmakers are not thinking of. Is they're not thinking of what's going to happen when I'm done. They're thinking about how do I get it done?
Yeah.
And what I've learned is you really need to know what the end is, not because getting the film done is barely the middle.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for filmmakers who have their dream script? They have their dream project. They're at the beginning of this process. what should they be doing right now?
Well, I'm so grateful that we have these devices now, because these are cameras. They're the audio department. They're the editing department. And so my first advice would be shoot something, whether it's your kids playing, whether it's a 2-minute short story you want to film. Go out there and shoot it and edit it, and keep doing that. Even, I said earlier, I'm not saying put it out to the masses for people to critique, but you yourself, do it. And then in 2 years from now, when you're on a different camera and you're not on your iPhone anymore, and you look at that thing that you edited and shot 2 years ago, wow, I'm so much better than that now. Keep doing it. If you're passionate about acting, if you're passionate about filmmaking, writing scripts, keep doing it. And then the people that are in your lives that you know and you love, that you trust with their feedback, and you don't want to give it to people that are just going to give you praise. You want to have people who are going to say, look, I love you enough to tell you, Brian, that scene you did wasn't really great. You could have. So just continually ask people to give you constructive criticism, and you're going to get better. And so I would just continue to say, if you're passionate about it, don't ever, 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 ever stop doing it, because you will continually get better. And at some point you will get noticed, and you will be able to go to that next level of whatever you're trying to achieve.
And I'd like to circle back, though, to kind of a lot of the earlier conversation of how some of these opportunities came to be. And so much of it is because of professionalism and attitude. Yep. And I think that is, for me, if I didn't know you and I was just listening to you for the first time in this conversation, that to me would be the biggest takeaway from this conversation, is that there are a lot of people who are driven to be filmmakers, to be actors, to be in this world, to tell stories, but they're not all professional. And I don't mean professional in skill set. I mean professional in how they handle themselves.
Yeah.
And it seems like that is such a strong start, and it doesn't cost anything.
No. It's lost in today's culture. And I'm not talking about millennials. I'm talking about older people, younger people. It's that kind of attitude is lost in today's culture. And so that, like I said earlier, is going to take you further than anything else. Responding well is going to take you further than anything else you can do. And like Brian said, it's free. It's not going to cost you anything to have a good attitude. And so if you do that, people are going to see that person, wow, that I don't know his name, but he's always smiling no matter what we throw at that guy. Bring him over here. Hey, I know you're the PA. Do you want to help out with the lighting department? Blah, blah, blah. It's just, it's lost today because there's instant gratification, and there's, everybody has their rights, and everybody has this and everybody has that. But I'm saying right now that if you want to focus in on one thing that's going to carry you further in life than anything else, a good attitude.
Amen.
Yeah.
I think we had a question or two come in, so let me. All right, so our good friend Tabitha, how do you pick the stories you want to tell?
Well, I'll tell you this, Tabitha, when you're starting out like I am, you don't really get that opportunity to say, hey, I want to do this, I don't want to do that. When Charles said The Talking Tree, it wasn't like I was like, no. I mean, obviously there's films I want to do, there's films I don't want to do. I mean, I'm never ever going to be a guy who directs the greatest horror movie ever. But a story that I know that I could do is a story about human interaction and things. So you choose, in my opinion, you choose things that are in your wheelhouse. But you don't want to turn down very many things either, because like Brian said earlier, you want to be on set, you want to do things.
So a follow-up question from Tabitha: how do you take an idea and flesh it out to a workable script?
Okay, so if you're not a script writer, don't do that. If you have,
but Ricky, everybody is a script writer.
Yeah, I know. My 4-year-old daughter, she wrote a great script yesterday.
Right.
If you have a great idea, get with somebody who's good at that and let them do it. Like on a film set, that was the hardest lesson for me to learn, because being in the Bay Area and then coming to Sacramento, I was the director, I was the camera guy, I was the audio guy. Guess what? Everybody's skilled in that department for a reason. Leave them alone. So if you have a great idea, find somebody who's good and sit with them and let them do it, would be my opinion.
So stay in your lane.
Yes. Amen. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane.
Which I have a hard time with, in a sense, in that it's kind of a double-edged sword now, because productions are needing more people who have diverse skills.
Yeah.
Because they have to have fewer people on set. But at the same time, I'm also a big fan of the stay in your lane. I have a daughter who's in college right now, and part of that experience is finding what you want to do, right? And I view getting to be on film sets as kind of that college experience where you go onto a film set and figure out what you want to do. Like we were talking about earlier, PA for even if you think you have more skills as a director than another person's project, go PA on their project, and then you might end up helping out, in G&E. You might end up helping, especially on the smaller projects where you or at least see what other people are doing in other departments. And maybe you find out that you really have a passion for lighting design, or you have a passion for art department. You end up figuring out what you want to do and really honing in on that. And maybe that is writing. You figure out, you see on set how they're having to rewrite and they're having to distribute the new pages because there's issues. And could you have been that person that helped out with fixing that? And is that where your passion is? So just really going back on what you were talking about as far as kind of, finding that thing, or finding the person who is that person. If that isn't your passion, if the writing isn't your passion, there's plenty of people whose it is.
That's right.
Who are really, really good at it.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't agree more with that kind of a mentality. We're coming in really, really close to the end of our live TV audience distribution. Maybe we can chat just a little bit more if there's any more questions after that. But we are fortunate enough to have a simulcast partnership so that this, when we do this live, it is simulcast to a local TV station in Sacramento. It's Access Sacramento, channel 17, I believe, on cable. So we appreciate them supporting us and sharing these conversations. And I appreciate you, Ricky, so much for flipping the table this week and unfortunately forcing me to be the on-camera guy, as I have tried to be behind the camera for the last few years. I started too on the on-camera side and had switched to the behind the camera work, and I think I like that better. But but because it's you, and I got the opportunity to chat with you, it was worth flipping the camera back around for a night and having this conversation. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share with our audience about what your experience was. I mean, honestly, we could probably talk for a few more hours. And so where do people find what's going on right now? Real quickly, like 10 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. My Facebook page, facebook.com/Ricky Borba Films. I also have a personal page. I'm building the Ricky Borba Films website right now. And, that's where I'm posting all my stuff on what's going on with my films and my career.
Fantastic. All right. I'm going to let us go out here on the live, and thank you everybody from the live TV watching us. We appreciate it. But we're still live for our Facebook Live audience.
Yes, we are.
Now, I want to talk a little behind the scenes here. Okay. So do you know, in the Talking Tree, you have some courtroom scenes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know why you were able to shoot where you were able to shoot?
Bill was a big part of that at the city of Roseville before he retired.
Yes.
I don't know where. Yes, we do. And he's retired. So he's loving life right now. Although I think he's a Seahawks fan, so that hurts my heart a little bit, if I remember correctly. I know he's not a 49er fan, so we'll have to work on him a little bit. But I don't know the answer you want me to give here.
So, my business partner, who we'll not name names right now, was and is an elected official. And I was actually with him when the city of Roseville asked, actually it was the city of Roseville and a private entity was looking to establish a startup incubator. And they said, we have this property available that the city of Roseville wants to lease out. We'd like to show it to you. And I just happened to be dragged along. So I met with them and Bill. And the first thing I see when I walk into that building was, well, you could do a lot of filming in this place.
Good. Yeah.
This would be a really great place to film. Could we film here? Well, we never thought of that before. let's see. And so then they established the protocol to allow that building to be rented out for film.
Okay.
And that is why that building has now been used in several productions, is because we happened to be in an opportunity to where that was being shown to us. And I said, what is it going to take to get this to be available for filmmakers?
Yeah. And
so you're welcome is what I'm trying to say. I'm looking for that thing.
Brian, thank you so much. I don't know what we would have done without you doing that prior to me knowing about it. I will say, however, that before the
let's be honest.
Before the Talking Tree was in there, local legend Ethan Ireland did a film in there, and so
and how did Ethan Ireland know about it?
He did know about it, and
how did he know about it?
Probably Brian Humphreys Jagger. Is that?
I don't know where the Humphreys came in from, but
pull the middle name out of thin air.
Yeah, it's Scott for future reference, but yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so
Ethan and I worked on a project together at the courthouse.
Was that Relic?
Yeah,
it was Relic. Okay, yeah. So there's just a fantastic opportunity in Roseville. They're so film friendly. Beverly at the Film Commission office.
Let's just be honest. Placer County, California, is extremely film friendly. Beverly at the Film Commission will do whatever she can to do whatever she can to do whatever she can to help filmmakers. And what I love about the Placer County Film Office and Beverly is that not just the big productions coming in from out of town, as so many film commissions are focused on. Beverly wants to help out the small independent filmmakers who are just starting out as much as she wants to help out the big productions. So, a little shout out for Placer County there.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, she really helped us get a lot of those locations down, the permitting. I mean, if you got something to do in Placer County, call Beverly Lewis because she is the man. Even though she's
and you are now in a position that I think is very interesting in a private partnership with the city of Rancho Cordova in helping them do similar services. And I think it's really, first of all, I think that model is fascinating, as you know, but I also love the fact that the Sacramento market is so film focused that there are, Sacramento has really put more investment in, the city has put more investment into their film office and has a new film commissioner. The Rancho Cordova is working with you guys to establish outreach so that films can come there. Kathleen in El Dorado County, Beverly in Placer County. I mean, it is that region is so hungry for helping. And again, and all of those people in offices are excited to help both the local independent filmmakers as well as productions coming in from out of town and making sure they have the resources they need. And so I'm just, a little shout out to the whole region, I guess.
Yeah, in September of 2019, we were the California Capitol Film Office, which we were a film office and doing film office things, permitting and things like that. And then we moved into a slightly bigger building, and now we're CalCap Arts. So we're not only a film office, we have a theater, as you well know. We had Ed Asner there in February before COVID's hit. And so we're going to be doing black box theater shows in there. We're also going to be doing a bunch of things for the community. At the same time, we're going to be doing film stuff. So calcaparts.org, you can find out more about it. But Rancho has really allowed us to grow inside of a year, inside of 2020 of all years, to say, hey, our outreach shouldn't just be film. Look at all the other arts in the city. And we couldn't, Micah, Amanda, Laura, Maria, the city manager whose name is escaping me right now, they could not have been more excited and helpful for us getting that going. Diane at the chamber, Mark at the at Travel and Rancho. Just person after person there. We're so excited for what we're doing, and now we're just growing leaps and bounds.
And the community is so well served by that. I think that you find when you have these communities that are like Rancho and Placer County, where they realize and recognize the value of performing arts and the value of what production in your community can bring as far as additional revenues, especially now. I think it's actually more valuable now than ever, and they have the foresight. So I don't know any of the people that you're talking about. I don't know anybody at the city of Rancho. I have no ties whatsoever, except for that they're supporting you. But I know that they've supported this show. They've supported the arts, and they recognize that it's a good return on investment when you support the performing arts, because it is a business. At the end of the day, it is a business, and it is a business that drives sales tax. It's a business that drives occupancy or transit occupancy tax, which is the taxes from hotel rooms and things like that. There's so many opportunities to grow a local economy. And the nice thing, honestly, about film production is when it's when you have a film production, it's not a long-lasting impact. It's a, impact in lots of sales tax revenue, lots of transit occupancy tax, lots of positive return on investment, and then usually the impact's gone. And so it's a win-win. But that's just, again, that is not to pitch anything. That's just for every community out there. The film commission is so important, or whether it be an independent or a private partnership or a government entity, however it's happening, to have that level of support. Chamber, to have that level of support really helps filmmakers be able to do what they need to do.
Yeah, so it's been amazing to be a part of it. It's been amazing to see the community and people who work for the city really rally around it. It's been cool.
I mean, I think that could be a whole master class separate of how to work with a film commission. I mean, really, I think that is something that independent filmmakers could probably benefit from. So maybe that's a conversation we have in the future. Yeah. Basically, now we're having like a you and me conversation, like we would have not with people watching. But I think that could. But I think that could be something that could be very beneficial for independent filmmakers to have that. What does a film commissioner do? What does that mean? What are the different types of film commissions? What's the difference between a private and a government-run one? We're actually working with one in England right now. That's really interesting, and we're partnering with them to help them provide more services to their film community through our software.
Oh, I love that. You should have Charles go over the pond and help out with that.
Right. That would be actually. I should talk.
My business partner is from England. Is my point for those.
Right. That's a good point. I'm like, I know. Oh, right. There's other people. See, again, I'm already forgetting that. Okay. Watching us have this conversation.
It's like midnight in Idaho, right? Like right now it's 8 o'clock in California. It's like midnight in Idaho.
Okay, we're 1 hour ahead. It's 9 o'clock. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. I mean, sure. All the horse and buggies that are, down the street are not, going out anymore because it's that late. But
right,
people just think that that's
what cobblestone roads. Is that what you're talking about?
Right, exactly. On the cobblestone. Anyhow, I think that would be beneficial. So, any other? Because if we just keep talking, I'll just
No, I'm just to kind of close things up. I would just say support your local independent filmmaker. Go see their films if they happen to be in theaters. Like I'm fortunate enough to have. Go see the film, and just be supportive of the arts in general, especially in 2020 where so many negative things have happened. It's so important for you to be able to go out and have a couple hours and watch a show, watch a movie, something like that. The arts are so important. And I think I'm learning that more this year, that we're not doctors. We're not curing diseases, things like that. I get that we're like on the lowest level in terms of like necessity in the world, but it is a necessary thing. And I'm so proud to be a part of a vocation where we give people an outlet for a couple hours to leave their lives behind for a couple hours, whatever's going on in their lives. They can go watch a movie, they can go watch a play, go to a concert, and just let the world drown out for a minute and focus on that. So I'm just so happy to be somebody who's able to work in this arena, and hopefully the goal being to keep working in this arena.
Wait, one last point I want to clarify. So you're saying it's okay as an independent filmmaker to support another independent filmmaker?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah. The reason I'm being facetious, obviously, is because I think sometimes people are worried that it's a competition.
Oh, totally.
And I guess my point on that is that it's not. It's every story is different. Every storyteller is different. Every interpretation of the same story is different. Yeah. And that supporting each other's endeavors, at least we're doing it, at least you're doing it, at least the people who are watching are doing it, do it. And support others who are doing it, because the more we support each other, the more we all have opportunities to grow and do more in the future.
Well said, my friend. Well said.
All right. Well,
thanks for having me, bud.
you and I could talk for hours and for days, and so we'll end it there. And I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to continue working on this project with you of And Action, and hoping to continue to provide some interesting conversations for filmmakers and actors around the country, and soon to be internationally, with hopefully some interesting stories and anecdotes that can help them in their production. So,
and thank you, Bex, for producing.
Yes, and thank you, Bex, for now helping us produce this project. It was amazing, and appreciate you both. Until next time.
All right. See you guys.